3, 2, 1.
Got a blast!
I grew up watching a lot of late 90s and early 2000s Nickelodeon shows, you know, being a kid growing up in the early 2000s and all, but if there was one of these shows that really stuck out to me in that vast sea of sponges, reptars, godparents, and teenage robots, it was a superpowered mind and a mechanical canine. Dude, I freaking love Jimmy Neutron. It is literally my favorite thing Nickelodeon has ever put out. I like SpongeBob, and I did also really love Rugrats, but I think Jimmy Neutron clicked with my sense of humor a little bit more than anything else they put out, and the premise behind it had so much potential. I really like this idea of a naive kid whose own genius landed him in all sorts of ridiculous scenarios. His unmatched intellect would let him create tons of amazing inventions like jetpacks, hovercraft, spaceships, shrink rays, hover boots, anything you can think of, but his unchecked ego would also get the best of him, often wanting to prove others wrong over the most pointless things.
Do you want proof? I'll give her proof.
No, Jimmy, that's an awful idea! Or sometimes taking every single chance he can to come off as the smart guy, something that would piss off his peers to no end.
Come on, Sheen, it's not rocket science. You just have to... Actually, I guess it is rocket science.
Oh, well, actually, it is rocket science.
Shut up, Jimmy.
I'm telling you that you can't see the equator.
One time you could bring Cindy all the way to the freaking equator just to prove to her that you can't actually see it like you can on a map. Like, Jimmy, who cares? Why did you go through all this effort just to prove a meaningless point? I mean, it is kind of amazing that you actually do have the means to prove that point. Nobody else does, but look what happened, dude. You got shipwrecked because of it. Good going, brain blast.
Like you'd last a day here without my science skills.
Oh, you mean the ones that got us into this mess?
And that is what made Jimmy such a good character. He was wicked smart, but his personality was very flawed. His experiments were often short-sighted, creating solutions to things that aren't really problems, or trying to wiggle around his laziness, or cheat his way to victory by creating an unfair advantage, or simply letting his curiosity get him into danger. I guess conceptually the show was pretty similar to Fairly Odd Parents, you know, like a little kid has access to something most kids don't, and that allows him to create basically anything he wants. But unlike Fairly Odd Parents, Jimmy was based in science, and I always thought science was way cooler. I knew I'd never be able to make wishes like Timmy could, but as a kid, I was able to feel that maybe someday I could also be smart enough to make something really cool too, even if Jimmy's inventions were always based in science fiction. But the characters are easily what made the show so freaking great. Jimmy's friends and parents having to deal with all of his obnoxious experiments, it let the comedy bounce between them. Hugh is easily my favorite character, like this painfully optimistic, moronic father that is so convinced that all of this nothing he says is like the greatest advice in the world.
What if Attila the Hun hadn't picked up his pants? What about Luke Skywalker? You're here. I'll tell you, the Force was with that guy's pants. I'm glad I've cleared that up for you, son. Bye-bye.
The absolute confidence this man has is something to be admired. He's also just like generally the weirdest character, which makes him super memeable these days. Carl was also a really good character, voiced by the legendary Rob Paulson.
Good night, everybody.
Carl is just full of bangers, dude, and most of my favorite lines, they usually come from him.
I see London. I see France.
You got really good eyesight.
I've watched a lot of the show recently, and I still think it holds up pretty good. A lot of jokes are just as relevant as ever.
But Mom, it's the new science fiction kung fu action buddy comedy sequel to last summer's box office smash based on an old TV show we've never heard of. I have to see it.
I still find myself laughing at the show a lot, way more than when I revisit other Nickelodeon shows. I know some people aren't really all that into the roughly aged CG, but I do still like the show's unique 3D look, even if some of the character designs can be a little bit unappealing to some people by today's standards. The movie holds up pretty good too, I'd say. It was a movie before a show after all, and while I didn't get to see it in theaters, my first experience with Jimmy Neutron was the original movie. I remember watching it on VHS at a friend's house as a kid, and I very much remember everybody in the room absolutely loving it. It's just one of those ideas that's simple but effective, you know? The genius kid tries to make contact with aliens, that ends up being a really bad idea, and they come and abduct everyone's parents, and then Jimmy has to round up all the kids at Retroville to go on an intergalactic rescue mission. I'd say I probably like the show a lot more than the movie, but I still think it's a fantastic introduction to like who this character is, establishing the premise with a fun, lighthearted adventure. But uh-oh, it's the early 2000s, which means every kid's movie needs a PS2 game. game, I don't gotta tell you guys that movie tie-ins were always rushed out the door and were rarely any good. They just slapped together a product while the film was still relevant just to make some extra cash. But hey, who knows? I did grow up playing some Jimmy Neutron games. There are a good chunk of them actually, and I do remember really liking Attack of the Twonkies. And, you know, sometimes movie tie-ins have been surprisingly solid, so who's to say the Jimmy Neutron movie game has to be bad?
Maybe I'm being a little bit too optimistic. I don't actually expect this thing to be any good at all, but hey, I'm a longtime fan of the Jimmy Neutron series, so I thought it'd be really fun to review through all of the Jimmy Neutron games, and yeah, I guess we gotta start somewhere. This is the only one I have zero confidence in being any good whatsoever, but hey, let's give it a shot, why not?
There's 3 versions of this game. There's the console version, available on PS2 and GameCube, the PC version, which is totally different from the console version, and then finally the Game Boy Advance version, which I'll talk more about in another video covering all of the Neutron GBA games. Today we're going to be looking at the PS2 and PC versions of the game. Let's start with PS2 because, I don't know, Big Sky Interactive made this thing apparently. What the hell did they make? The only thing I can find is SpongeBob Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Apparently this and that is all they did. They were not around very long. Oh, weird. This game's intro uses clips from the pilot. You know, the one where it kind of hits the story beats from the movie's intro, but Jimmy's wearing like a different shirt and everybody looks like slightly off model. It's so weird. You'd think being a movie tie-in they would use footage from, you know, the actual movie. Oh, they did. They used both? Weird. Okay. Oh man, that's a lazy title screen. Just the logo, that's it. Really? Like, you couldn't even have animated it or anything? Oh, it's like slightly off-center too. And the music, like, is that even the Jimmy Neutron theme? Like, I guess it is, but it's like a weak-ass version of it. Hey, come on, man. Jimmy's got like the sickest bass riff ever. The second you hear that thing, it's like, dude, it's Jimmy freaking Neutron, you know? That riff alone is mad iconic. I don't know how the hell they're gonna take that and turn it into this nothing-sounding elevator music. Like, come on. Oh, that's jarring. No opening cutscene, no menu, you just land right in Jimmy's lab. Oh, I guess Jimmy's lab is the menu? Well, sort of. You got your load and save over at the right. In here we've got options, over there's bonuses, and in here is a level select hub. So yeah, sure, let's do the first level. What, wait, Retroland's the first level? Well, no, that can't be. Well, the movie starts with Jimmy making contact with aliens with the space probe. What about that? And what about the scene where Jimmy uses the shrink ray to sneak out? That would have been a really cool level. The whole house being gigantic, trying to platform over the big furniture, that would have been cool. Or hell, even before that, why not have a level where we get to explore Retroville on Jimmy's way to school, using his inventions to get around? Or what about a level trying to collect everything Jimmy needs to make those pearls and diamonds to butter up his mom? No, for some reason, the game skips all of that and cuts right to Retroland.
Which, mind you, is 29 minutes into the film's runtime. Yeah, I checked. That's 35% of the movie the game immediately skips right out of the gate. It doesn't even try to summarize it or condense it with cutscenes or anything. No, it just opens right here in Retroland, standing in front of Nick, having this conversation. That is how the game opens up. No context whatsoever. If you weren't already familiar with the plot of the movie, you'd be totally lost here.
Oh my god, these models are hideous. The faces don't even animate, like, at all. The mouths don't move, they don't even blink. Maybe that's how Neutron got his genius.
By staring unending into a void of madness, polluting one's mind with forbidden knowledge that would be passed unlearned.
There's something truly terrifying about seeing the Brain Blast kid staring at you with his wide, gaping, unblinking eyes. God, maybe ignorance is bliss. So Nick decides out of nowhere that Jimmy has to collect 6 prizes for no reason, and that's what we spend the level doing. In the movie, Retroland is just a scene of them all having fun, so I guess having Jimmy wander around the park playing games and stuff is the way to go about it, but there's one thing that's just really not accurate to the movie. I'm not having fun. You just aimlessly walk around the park looking for prizes. I found this rocket ship to let you play a shoot-'em-up game. I assumed you had to beat it to get one of the prizes, but no, it didn't give me anything other than a good job. Okay. This minigame appears multiple times throughout the game. If you ever see Jimmy's rocket in a stage, you can jump inside to go to the next shoot-'em-up level, each one getting harder and harder. I don't think you get anything from it though, so I didn't bother doing them all. They get way too hard, way too fast. Well, what else do we got here? There's a fortune-telling machine, and yeah, it just tells jokes. There's a couple of things you can interact with here, but the only thing that gets you a prize is this batting carnival game. You don't even have to do anything. You literally just grab the bat and hit the ball in any direction, and the game does all the work for you. Once you get that thing, it's just a matter of completing these various platforming sections. Each one, I guess, being a ride in Retroland, I guess. It's more like a level themed after the theme of the ride, but like, why would any of this be the theme part? It's all pretty boring. This one's just jumping across magic carpets. That's the whole thing. You just land on it, you wait for it to go all the way over, you jump, you land, and you wait for it. Like, that's the whole thing. The lava level's got a little bit more going on, but it's still just incredibly basic platforming on incredibly basic platforms. I mean, they only gave Jimmy 2 moves, jump and kick, that's it. There's barely anything here for movement options, just basic mindless jumping with absolutely no challenge at all. This part here doesn't even have any platforming. You just walk straight through this maze. It's hardly a maze, though. You're not gonna get lost in this thing. It sure as hell made me sick to my stomach, though. Like, what am I looking at? You go in a clown's mouth, and it's just this endless stretch of clown flesh and clown teeth. Oh my god, why would any kid ever want to come in here? It's a damn nightmare. Oh yeah, and those rotating obstacles there. Yeah, that's right. They don't do anything. They don't hurt you at all. I don't even know why they're there. Oh my god, Carl, what do they do to you?
I kinda changed my mind. Why didn't you go without me?
Wait, that's not what Carl sounds like. That is not Carl's voice actor. That's not his voice. Even weirder, the manual still credits Rob Paulsen for voicing Carl, even though in-game they credit Wally Wingbird.
I almost wish the manual credited who made the manual, just so I could see who it was that messed that up.
Well, I guess to be fair, it is a pretty nice looking manual, though you can tell that they kinda just use Sheen's T-pose for this picture right here. Like, listen guys, I know I can't see the body, but you're not fooling me. I know a T-pose when I see one. King Goobot down there too. Well, I guess at least it's not as bad as KO the Kangaroo's manual. They didn't even try to cover it up there. Anyway, once you get all the prizes, you get a cutscene where everyone shares their findings, before Jimmy just brags that he was the only one who found some cool stuff. Oh my god, Sheen, what did Jimmy do to you? God, the animation never stops getting worse, huh? This next level you can beat in literally 5 minutes. I'm not even joking. It is so small. You got a tiny portion of Jimmy's lab, his backyard, and his house. That's it. I guess it's kind of cool exploring the environments you see in the movie and the show, but I don't know, there's just not much detail here at all. It feels so slapped together that it does not give you that feeling whatsoever, especially with how restrictive it is about where you can go. It would have been so cool to be able to explore Retroville, especially considering that, unlike every other Nickelodeon show at the time, Jimmy Neutron was a 3D show. It had a 3D environment that would have made so much sense for a game. But don't expect anything like that here. Why would you want that from a Jimmy Neutron game, silly? It's not like that's the only thing you could want from a Jimmy Neutron game. They don't even bother to get many of the details right either. Like this scene right here. Any Jimmy Neutron fan will tell you exactly what's wrong with this. I really hate how awkwardly they fumble from scene to scene. It's always just like a cutscene of them saying what they're gonna do, and then we cut to them when they've already done it. Like, we don't see them leave, we don't see them land here. No, we just go from here to here with nothing but the level select screen to bridge the gap. The rest of the levels take you from the asteroid to the Okian Empire. These are definitely closer to playing an actual video game in the first 2 levels, but they're still painfully dull. You'll start bumping into enemies more often, but none of them really pose a threat because you can just get them in a stun lock if you mash the attack button, so you're never gonna lose. There's a couple of different weapons you can pick up to help deal with enemies. There's the Shrink Ray, yeah, you gotta have the Shrink Ray. There's the Inflato Ray that makes enemies explode, and the Baseball Bat that pretty much kills everybody in one hit. But again, the combat is so easy already that getting one of these weapons doesn't really change much, other than I guess viewing a different attacking animation. I guess the bat's kinda helpful sometimes, cause it does kill things in one hit, but man, what a waste. Oh guys, we gotta rescue Cindy from the space urchins! Don't worry Cindy, we'll take them on. Remember the part of the movie where Jimmy just kills a bunch of frickin' aliens with his bare-ass hands, then he throws their corpses at a giant space worm that looks like it's from Taco Bell and it blows up into a million pieces? I'm really glad they put that part in. I don't know what the game would have been without it. Sometimes Jimmy can pick up and throw stuff, like these alien things for some reason, these power crystals, they're really hard to get out for some reason. Jimmy, what? These little bombs too, which I was so convinced I had to do something with, like a puzzle or something. I kept trying to throw them at this green pipe here, but nothing would happen. It turns out they just respawn infinitely in place just in case you want to throw one at a regular enemy and take them out that way. But again, the combat is so easy, there's never any reason to actually do that. Those energy crystals, you gotta pick them up and throw them in this big reactor to get Cindy out of a cell at the end of this level, but like, that's not even what happens in the movie! Everybody's in this cell and they all break out together. But I guess here they figured it'd be easier to just make one person in the cell and then put that at the end of a generic stage instead. But man, what a wasted opportunity. Like, even if it didn't follow the movie exactly, breaking out of prison would have been so cool. It's a well-known fact that busting out of jail is like one of the most fun things you can do in a video game. So what if we collected something that made an invention to get us all out? That would have been sick. God, the fixed camera makes this part of the game so annoying. You can't control the camera the whole game, which isn't usually a problem since you just go straight most of the time, but here you gotta go down this way. I had no way of knowing there was a path here. I just assumed it went off the cliff like the rest of the area does. I was walking around in circles here for like 15 minutes. I was chucking around these guys thinking I had to do something with them, but no, they just use these enemies here for like no reason this time, while before they were there to be thrown at this guy, so naturally I thought I had to throw them at something here too. It didn't seem like there was anything else to do. There's also a bunch of collectibles to get, these atoms here, or no, neutron particles according to the game. No, dude, I'm pretty sure those are atoms. There's neutrons in atoms. Why are we calling it after like one part of it? Calling this a neutron particle would be like calling this burger a slice of cheese. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I know they called it Neutron because it's Jimmy Neutron. I'm putting too much thought into it, but like seriously, it's not a neutron. Oh, and yeah, they don't serve any purpose at all. Like, there's actually no point in collecting these. They unlock nothing. They just treat it like a high score. What's the point of that in a game like this? Wait, so you're telling me I was going around busting the shit out of every trash can in Retroland for no reason? Dude, I was going on a total rampage, absolutely decimating every single one of the whole park, and now some poor janitor's gotta come clean it all up just cause Jimmy needed his neutron particles that don't even do anything. You can also find Goddard lying around in some areas, and if you interact with him, he turns into one of two vehicles. You only really need the pogo stick like twice in the whole game, and other than that, Goddard doesn't really serve any purpose at all. Like, why do I need the pogo stick here? There's no platforming here. I mean, I guess you can use it to grab more neutron particles, but there's no point in getting those, so why would I? I guess the scooter's good for getting around faster, and it can also damage enemies if you run into them with it, but in most cases, it's just a good way to send Jimmy flying into something that'll kill him. Goddard also shows up for these slide levels, where he turns into a board and you ride him down a slope. They're not very difficult, but they sure do control like trash. The weight feels way too heavy, and the steering is really sluggish. Sometimes I'd spam jump just to try and make it slightly easier to steer. The final level has the most thoughtless design. You can tell that, like, instead of creating new obstacles that naturally blend into a challenging level, no, they just spam the existing obstacles a bunch of times. Yeah, like, oh, just chucking a bunch of Yoki and just, yeah, throwing a bunch of lasers, just put a bunch of... You could just walk right around all of it. This is not how you make a challenging level. The final two, and only two bosses, are of course with Pultra and King Goobot. Pultra is painfully easy. You just get her to peck at each of these turret things and the fight's pretty much over. Beating her is so underwhelming too. The animation has zero oomph to it. Frickin' Pikmin did this better. Check this out. Yeah, like now there's an animation for beating a big bird. Beating a big bird? That sounded way better when I was writing this. King Goobot's a weird find. You gotta throw these eggs at these turrets, and, well, once I got those taken out, I just kept throwing eggs at them and it wouldn't do anything. No, yeah, you're literally supposed to just go up to them and, yeah. After you beat his ass to a green pulp, we get this abridged version of the final scene, but they cut it down to just Jimmy's conversation with his parents. Oh my lord, this game's so unpolished. Well, what's with the weak sound effect, the weak visual? Why is Jimmy still in the level dancing right after he warped away? Did he warp himself back to the level just to dance? I don't know, and I don't really care either. All I do know is this game is a steaming pile of garbage. It feels like barely any effort went into it at all. Probably nothing more than just a paycheck for a small team of developers. The models look like crusty potatoes, the animations are stiff and laughable, the level design is practically non-existent, every obstacle is painfully rudimentary, they do a piss-poor job of recreating the movie's environments, and the game lacks any sense of challenge whatsoever. They barely even cover the movie at all. Like, they kinda hit 3 of the plot points, but the rest is total filler. Well, I guess all that's left to show is the secret room. It's just got a model viewer and some bonus clips you can watch, like trailers for other Nickelodeon games and clips from the movie. There's one of Nick Cannon showing us the behind the scenes.
Here's a tip. When you're playing, make sure you talk to all of Jimmy's friends. They're gonna show you how to bust up more Yokins. Get him, Jimmy! Yes.
Wow, Nick, you make this game look way better than it is. Thanks for lying to children. I don't know why anybody would ever want to use the model viewer, though. I think the less people look at these hideous things, the better. Well, that was a big pile of poop. Hopefully the PC version will be a little bit better. Nickelodeon used to make a lot of PC versions of their games, but weirdly enough, they would be like different games by totally different people, too. A Battle for Bikini Bottom, for example. You know, the platformer. Everyone knows this one. But no, on PC, it's not a platformer. It's like a weird mini-game collection. Same title, same box art and everything, but completely different game. Kinda misleading, don't you think? Well, let's get this guy installed, I guess. I wonder how different this one's gonna be. Oh, this one actually starts with the cutscene. The Yokians are looking for Jimmy Neutron, but not because they want to abduct everyone's parents, but because they think he's the source of a rebel signal?
Have you located the rebel base yet? We believe we heard some noises we think are coming from the human boy named Jimmy Neutron. That must be the area.
Wait, what? I don't know. It feels like a really clunky reason. Almost like the developers don't even know why the aliens want to get Jimmy. They just say some nonsense and do. This time the plot actually doesn't really follow the movie, but there are a lot of common elements between the two. It almost feels like they watched the pilot and then made a game surrounding the general concept, which honestly I think I do prefer over the game trying to follow the movie and doing a terrible job.
Why'd she run away that fast?
Well, anyway, we then cut to Jimmy's lab where he's testing out a new teleportation booth. Our first goal is to find some new parts for it. Oh, well, the models certainly look, better. Obviously still not great, they still kind of look like they're out of an onion's butt, but hey, at least the animation's better. They actually blink and move their mouths now. It doesn't have the uncanniness the PS2 models did, at least.
I really like this little cat guy. This model is just so dumb.
Wait. Oh no, at least the PS2 version didn't have tank controls. Oh god, you can't use a gamepad either, it's keyboard only. You'll have to use the arrow keys to steer Jimmy around like a car. Now, unlike the PS2 version, which was a linear platformer, this one's more like an open world collectathon. You'll explore Retroville as freely as you want, looking around for items, talking to NPCs, meeting simple objectives, and unlocking new inventions that'll let Jimmy progress further into the game. Yo, you actually have the shrink ray this time, and it's not a temporary power-up either. No, it's like Jimmy's weapon of choice. The way it should be, man. Yeah, like any enemies come at you, you shrink them down and they're not gonna hurt you no more. Yeah, buddy, it ain't Jimmy Neutron unless I got that shrink ray. The gadget you'll use the most, though, is definitely the jetpack. Jimmy can use this thing to temporarily take flight and get up to rooftops and higher areas and stuff. There is some, like, weird physics to it, though. You kinda gotta let it boost you upward and then carry that momentum forward. It is kinda clunky being an old computer game and everything, but thankfully it's not too difficult to get the hang of it. Oh, the jumping is so weird. Jimmy like leans into it when you press left and right. I know it's because of the way the jetpack is programmed, but it's really weird that he still does that when you're not using it.
It does look pretty funny though.
They get way better use out of Goddard here. Now you can morph him into a scooter whenever you want, which you'll use to simply get around faster. But the thing is, that actually makes sense this time. It's an open world game. Before you would just ride him around a small portion of a linear stage. It was pointless. But now I find myself using Goddard all the time. He's so useful for just getting around town. A lot of the inventions are pretty good with that actually. Instead of being meaningless power-ups, they now usually affect your character's movement. Like the bubble, they got the bubble in here. Remember that POV shot from the movie where Jimmy's zipping through the neighborhood? Well, it is really clunky to control, but for the time, this actually does a pretty solid job of recreating that feeling. Flying up to the rooftops just to get a look around is also a really fun time. But like, dude, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kinda geeking out here. Yeah, it's got butt graphics and clunky tank controls. It doesn't control well, it doesn't really look that good, but I'm actually exploring Retroville, so who cares? I can go downtown to the school and Jimmy's lab, even Jimmy's house. I don't know why aliens are invading its TV, that's kind of creepy. You could even go to Area 51, you know, like from the opening of the movie. I love having this big desert area to explore. It's a really good fit for flying around in the rocket. Yo, buddy, let's go to Retroland. Oh, you can ride the rides and everything by collecting tickets and stuff. It doesn't really serve any purpose at all, but that's still a wicked cool detail. You can even play these carnival games to get more tickets. They're all kind of super duper broken, but I feel like that's what adds to the charm. Oh my god, that is a lot of collectibles. Most of these you find simply scattered around town in random locations, and you'll get points for returning them to the respective locations. For example, bringing flowers home to your mom's flower pots, putting candy in candy jars, giving food to Goddard, shrinking down these mutant fish and putting them back in their bowls, the list goes on.
Candy bar.
No, Jimmy, not candy bar, it's candy in the jar. None of these items serve any purpose at all, outside of getting a high score, I mean, but again, I think that's pretty pointless in a game like this, but I do at least think it is kind of interesting having that score at the end be reflective of how much time you've spent exploring Retroville. Okay, well, sorta. It really just boils down to how many red neutrons you collected. Okay, I'm really starting to wish I didn't get so many. Well, at least collecting neutrons isn't totally pointless this time, and now they refuel your health and your gadgets. If you run out of energy, you'll have to grab some more. That's so much better. Now I actually have incentive to get these things. Some of these inventions are so jank though. The invisibility cloak, for example, it's a total joke. Some areas have you sneaking past the Yokians, but when you get caught, they just slowly float towards you and barely do any damage.
Intruder alert! Intruder!
But if you equip the cloak, they just instantly forget you even existed and go back to their patrol paths. It's kind of hilarious. You also get to do all of this in the game's final mission.
But I have a feeling this will be the toughest area yet.
This is the easiest area yet. It's really just a matter of turning on whether or not they know you're there. It's programmed so painfully basic, but even that aside, it's so easy just to walk right past everybody. They go so slow and they hardly give chase at all. But the best jank invention is the grappling hook. I could barely get this thing to work as intended. I would just whip all over the place and get stuck in a wall half the time. The handful of times you have to use this thing, it's not too hard to get working, thankfully, so it never becomes a problem. No, it's just something stupid that's fun to play with. Screwing around with this thing was a ton of fun. This game is adorably broken, dude. Like, one time I got pushed upward just because an NPC, like, kinda walked in my direction, and I got stuck floating above the door. I can't move, I'm stuck. I eventually got loose after like 2 solid minutes of struggling, but man, I was so worried I just soft-locked the game.
I swear, every video game falling animation back then.
What is up with the game's ending? I mean, they literally do the congratulations thing from Evangelion.
All right, Jimmy! Way to go, Jimmy.
Good job, Jimmy boy. Good job, Jimmy boy.
Oh my god, they use both takes for you. You're supposed to pick one! Like the PS2 version, this game is painfully easy. The enemy AI is horrible, and the objectives are all really easy to meet, but man, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a great time exploring Retroville, even if it was pretty broken. This is exactly what I'd want from a Jimmy Neutron game after all, and seeing them take the time to fill it up with references to the world in the movie gave me a lot to get excited about.
Let me put it this way, if the PS2 version is this unfinished, boring platformer that was slapped together and is not worth playing at all, then the PC version is this charming, broken sandbox of jankiness. It is that world you know and love from the movie, except it's flimsily held together with Scotch tape. And there's something about it that is just so hard not to love.
There'd be many Neutron games to come, but when the series was hot and new, this is all people really had. I pity the people that grew up with this version, but hey, I'm willing to bet a lot of people do have fond memories of this PC version. It's not well made at all, in fact, it's completely broken, but I had such a wonderful time laughing at all of this game's stupid quirks and enjoying all of the references to the film.
Well, you take that one and throw it right in the garbage, but if you're a big fan of Jimmy Neutron and you sometimes like playing older, jankier stuff, no, I would totally recommend the PC version. It's really fun and it's charming as hell. It's a cute little piece of history for sure, but the series goes on. They would make 3 more Jimmy Neutron games, the next of which wasn't even like based on the movie or show or anything. No, it was like this weird original thing. Jimmy Neutron versus Jimmy Negatron. PC only, no console version this time, but yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the hell this thing's all about, and I guess we'll do that next time. I'll see you guys then with more Jimmy Neutron.
Sup, welcome to the end of the video. Thanks for watching this one. This was actually a lot of fun making this one because, I don't know, I feel like for the first time in like forever I'm actually talking about something I grew up with and therefore know a lot about. So getting all the Neutron out of me has been a very satisfying experience. But yeah, if you want to support the channel, I have a $1 podcast up on patreon.com. Brain Blast.